There are moments in American political life when numbers tell a story louder than any campaign ad, any headline, or any shouting match on cable news. Moments when the voice of the people shifts, not in whispers but in thunder. And in this moment, that thunder has come in the form of a polling figure that no one expected. In a country long divided over the question of immigration, a country where border policy has sparked rage and rallies, courts and cages, something has changed. Dramatically. According to Gallup polling released on July 11, a remarkable 79% of Americans now view immigration positively. Yes, 79%. That's not just a number. That's a transformation. That's a loud, collective pivot away from fear, away from division, towards something far more powerful, understanding. Just 1 year ago, the nation looked different. In 2024, 55% of Americans said they wanted immigration levels to decrease. That was a 5-year high. That was, in many ways, a reflection of the climate, the rhetoric, the raids, the fear. But now, that same number has dropped to 30%. Let that sink in. A 25-point swing. This isn't a blip. This is a shift in national consciousness. A realization, perhaps, that America is made greater not by walls, but by doors. Not by detentions, but by dreams. Not by who we keep out, but by who we let in. And yet, in the midst of this changing tide, the Trump administration has moved in the opposite direction. It has accelerated its crackdown. It has pushed harder, reached further, and in the eyes of many, crossed more lines. In June, immigration agents, masked, faceless, raided restaurants, farms, and hardware stores. Small-town businesses became battlegrounds. Backrooms turned into checkpoints. And communities that had once thrived quietly were thrown into chaos. The images were chilling. The silence after was even more so. Families torn apart, children hiding, citizens left wondering, who's next? The administration, undeterred, unveiled its most controversial move yet, a detention center deep in the Florida Everglades. Nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz, the facility has become both a symbol of brute enforcement and a magnet for legal firestorms. Critics call it a prison without due process. Supporters call it a solution. But for the people trapped inside, for the families waiting outside, it is a nightmare made real. And the backlash has been fierce. Legal challenges have surged. Judges, time and again, have halted, blocked, delayed, and limited the administration's tactics. Courtrooms across the country have become frontlines in a legal war over who America is and who it wants to be. Some rulings cite constitutional concerns. Others cite human rights violations. Still others simply state what so many Americans are now beginning to believe, that cruelty is not strength. And through all of this, Gallup asked the people, "What do you think?" And the people answered, with numbers that stunned pundits. With numbers that changed the tone of the debate. With numbers that said, enough. This is more than politics. This is a reckoning. A moment when America is looking in the mirror and asking itself, what kind of nation are we? We are a nation built by immigrants. A nation where every generation has been shaped by those who crossed oceans, deserts, rivers, not for handouts but for hope. Not to take, but to build. And perhaps now, more Americans are remembering that truth. Perhaps they are seeing the face of immigration not as a threat, but as a neighbor. A coworker, a teacher, a classmate, a doctor, a friend. Perhaps the raids and the rhetoric have pushed people to ask harder questions. To look deeper. To choose compassion over fear. Facts over slogans. Humanity over policy. And the numbers reflect that. Because change doesn't always start at the top. Sometimes it starts at kitchen tables. In classrooms. In church pews. In workplaces. In communities where immigrants aren't headlines, they're family. And so the Trump administration finds itself facing not just legal opposition, but cultural resistance. A people who, despite everything, are choosing empathy. Choosing inclusion. Choosing a future that looks more like the one their ancestors dreamed of. Yes, the administration still has its supporters. Yes, the battle continues in courts, in states, in Congress. But the tide, it's turning. And numbers don't lie. When 79% of Americans say they view immigration positively, it means the ground beneath this debate is shifting. It means the strategy of fear may be losing its grip. It means that a new narrative, one of unity, of shared humanity, may finally be taking root. This doesn't mean the debate is over. It doesn't mean the policies will change overnight. But it does mean that the people, the American people, are speaking. Loudly, clearly, with hearts a little more open than before. And perhaps, just perhaps, that is the beginning of something extraordinary. Because in the end, immigration is not about numbers. It's about stories. In this new chapter, written by 79